Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We now come to the second part of the change management. In the first part, we explained the cycle of change management that would start initially from denial and that would then go through the resistance phase. And then out of resistance, we will try to find out some supporters. We explore the supporters and then we get the commitment and team building. So this process, now there are some very important strategies we need to follow under these various stages of the change management cycle. Now, the first is the denial phase, and the leaders would try to gain the power through more and more information about the team and their displeasure or their denial. So you try to, but again, you have to be very careful about the rumors and mouth says, because many times I've seen that the rumors distort the informations and the information is not reliable. So the first and the most important part is to believe in very reliable sources, the people who are credible, who are trustworthy. The second, the rumors should not be the base for opinion making because the speculation, so you can discuss the rumors openly with your managers and trustworthy people. Allow yourself time to analyze and reflect on how you feel about the change. Don't be swept away with other emotions, by other emotions. This is very important. And you carefully listen to the grievances, to the various apprehensions of the people, and then you try to internalize and within yourself try to find the most reasonable answer to this kind of apprehensions by the people. And certainly you have to be very careful in controlling your emotional stability and the emotional intelligence, which we discussed last time. Then avoid staying stuck in this stage. Yes, many people stuck in this stage, they try conflict with the people, they try to justify their own honesty, integrity, and ultimately the people are stuck up in this, and most of the leaders then come to this resistance or denial phase. When you go to the resistance, stop spinning your wheels. So you try to see the people and their direction and don't try to make too many new ideas to them and try to develop consensus about the proposed change. Except that this is a period of emotional turmoil because many people would challenge your integrity, your authority, even your personal character and all these. So you have to be very cool, you have emotionally stable, and you should not be in any kind of turmoil which can lead to the damage of the patient. So you will feel the hunger, hurt, disappointment, depression, betrayal, and loss. People may sometimes disappoint you by their conduct. Seek emotional support from the trusted friends, peers, mentors, your elders, your teachers, your family, friends who can give you this kind of support you need in this time of high stress. Avoid self-defeating behavior. It's very important that when the resistance goes up, we have seen that there is a lot of self-defeating attitude. The leaders may ultimately come out of this mission for change, and they may succumb or surrender to the denial by the people. So you have to be very careful in this stage, and you don't want to feel like a victim. Try to be like a victor, not a victim, and try to avoid the negative thinking, bad attitudes. Do some sports, exercise, counseling with the friends, and rallying others to fight the change, and then try to make your own friends who can then fight with the change with you. Avoid staying stuck in this stage. A prolonged negative attitude can earn you a poor reputation and undo a lot of your good work. So please, in this particular stage of the denial, you have to be very positive, anticipate the objection, the resistance, and you create some good friends within the team who can then trust you and they can go with you. In the exploration that you try to venture into uncharted territory, the problems people start discussion, they would be giving you very innovative, sometimes very difficult solutions, sometimes very impractical also. But you have to be very careful and you try to understand that where is our territory and where is our not. So you suggest the idea, think unconventionally. So you have to think out of box, you have to think innovatively, creatively, and focus on changes that can be made to work rather than listing all the things. So you cannot practice every recommendation and every suggestion. So you have to see that whatever is possible within the given resources, you try to implement that. Focus on priorities and set short-term goals. For this is very important because normally the change management is a process of incremental management, and you see your short goals maybe for 2 months, for 1 month, for 6 months, and gradually you try to achieve that, and then you go up instead of having a very large list of your goals. This can definitely frustrate you and the other people. Acquire new skills. Yes, very important that we are dealing with the change management. Many new things would come and you would definitely improve your understanding, your learning about these things. And when you go to the commitment, which is the time when the people would be supporting you, you will have some good number of people who will be moving with you. Then you have to not to stop here, rather you have to create the impetus in which the people would be doing their job. Your frequent meeting with them, your frequent reviews and follow-ups, and all these would create then kind of momentum for more work. So find new solutions in new situation, revisit and refine your goals. Now, once you have seen that the team has come up to the delivering of the work, then you can make new goals for the next 5 or 6 months. Continue to rally people around the change. Yes, be focused on your change because the people may be coming up with very irrelevant kind of ideas. So you have to be very focused on the change and goals of the change. Avoid complacency by assuming new status quo. This is very important that after some time, if you don't keep the momentum on, the people would become again to the status quo situation and you will be again in a problem. So you have to be very careful that the momentum of change continues. Continue to expand your skills and knowledge. Again, this is really very important that you have to improve your skills and knowledge for all phases of the resistance and the exploration and the commitment. Break out your comfort zone. Yes, very important that while the change leader, you have to create the people comfort instead of going into your comfort zone. You have to come out of it. You have to create comforts further and new assignments and challenges you take up while you are moving forward. Now, to have people consistently behave in a new way, three conditions must be set: that the person must be aware, they should have the skills to deal with these changes or challenges, and they must be motivated. So the awareness to make them understand why this change is required. Number two, then you develop their skills and their competency. And third, then motivate them to keep doing these new things. Now, the management of change is very important because the people can bring the change, and you have to understand that the people are your intellectual assets and property. Those who are closest to the work have the best information. So the people, for example, if you want to bring the IT platform for online education, the people in the IT department are the best to help you. So you have not bring new things or new ways, new people, rather you have to emphasize on their roles so that they can come and give you the solution. People tend to support more readily what they help to create. So they would support something which they would create themselves, rather you cannot bring the plug-in solution. The plug-in solution will not create any belongingness, in fact. People need to understand the context of the change. The change is inevitable, but the people would definitely need to understand the change, why the change is important, and that is where the awareness is very important to the change team members. People need to build a sustainable change. People must experience some personal results. So the people must see some results for their personal learning, and this is really very important at individual level and collective level to see and demonstrate some results. So this is the focus areas that the most important is in communication, that you try to minimize the distortion, create more and better communication, the knowledge transfer from the competent people, from the people who already know about the new things. It is very important that they can give the mentorship and the learning opportunities to those who don't. And then the stakeholder analysis, that you need to identify the stakeholders who can be impacted by this change. You have to assess the change readiness or change impact and organizational readiness to the change. This is really very important because sometimes we may bring the changes, maybe technological, and the people and the team may not be ready to accept it. So you have to bring with a recipe which can be progressively implemented in many circumstances. The training and development is very important, and then you need to align your sponsors, your peers, and your financiers, and finally, the effectiveness of team for the change management is really very important. Now, the communication is very important, and for the communication, you have to create your own business case. And the reason is that by creating your business case, you try to convince the team member and your stakeholders to come to the change. And for this, you should articulate the objectives of the project, the outcomes and benefits, the specific deliverables or impacts, the driving forces, the return on investment costs and expenses and revenues, the timeline, delivery dates, the constant risk and challenges, the project structure, who is leading, who is participating. So this would mean to identify the organizational structure for the new project under the change management. The critical success factors are alignment and agreement between sponsors and key stakeholders created to use in future communication. Consider this a decision checkpoint. Lack of alignment indicates the need for continued refinement. Stakeholder analysis, again, very important. The major role of the stakeholder identification is to identify the members of community that will be directly or indirectly impacted by the project, to assist to the reach or magnitude of the project which you are implementing. Creating stakeholder analysis, for example, if we are talking about the online education system in Gilgit-Baltistan, then we have to analyze the stakeholders, for example, the students, the faculty, the staff, their parents, the general public, and all these stakeholders need to be on board when I bring this new project. And for that, definitely the effective communication will be required. So you normally list all the individual and group of stakeholders which will be impacted by this new project. And it is normally important to include the group name or individual names, manager name, classification, directly or indirectly impacted, impact assessment. That, for example, what will be the impact of this new technology on in terms of low, medium, and high. For example, the impact of this online education can be assessed as a very high, both positively and negatively on the students. For example, if it does not work and fails to deliver, then definitely the highest impact would be on the students. Maybe the society or the media may have a very low impact of that. So similarly, if the success is not created, the other impact can be had, a high impact can also be had by the faculty. So this is very important that you identify the impact in terms of low, medium, and high. And finally, that what are the key interests of different stakeholders and what are their expectations, and you have to come to these expectations once you have all the list of expectations. So it's very important that you do this stakeholder analysis well in time, and you you create the temptation and you work with them. So this is just a communication model. I'll not read it, but you have to see that how this communication model is successfully implemented. Now, the third is training, and training means that you have to create the capacity of the team members who are working with you. For example, currently we are working with the IT team, we are working with the faculty to enable them to understand the different portals of online education, Hangouts, Zooms, and other such kind of platforms, and how to help them to understand the complexity of technologies and things like that. And that is really very important. You have to have online trainings, you have to have on-job training and various kind of training modules you can develop. So a holistic picture of the education or training required, the objectives, the audience analysis, training need assessment, delivery approach, and cost proposals. So you can develop your own strategy for the training and development of the staff. I'll not read it, you may go through it, but certainly you have to have a very pragmatic training and development of your stakeholders, your internal stakeholders like your staff, your faculty, even students and all. Another very important thing is the change impact in organizational readiness, that how ready the organization is to anticipate this change. And what we have done, that we tried to develop a system which can work for some time, 5 to 6 weeks, and this 5 to 6 weeks will be treated as a period for creating the readiness within the organization. So this is certainly a very challenging task, but when we are moving with the implementation of various technological platforms, we will be creating certainly a good readiness within the organization. This impact readiness, so the current state, where do you want to, where are we today, where do you want to go, and all this process we come and we develop our readiness matrix, in which we try to see that where would we be going and what kind of resources we would need. The transfer of knowledge is very important, because you may be transferring the knowledge from one group of stakeholders to the other stakeholders, other group of stakeholders. For example, the IT people would be transferring their knowledge to the faculty, technological and online education knowledge, and the faculty then would be transferring this to the students. Apart from the normal pedagogical knowledge, they would try to also teach them the technological knowledge, technical skills, which are very important for online education. So this transfer of knowledge process would take place within the organization and from intra the organization and inter the organization. The key learning from the past project are scheduled, and you want to see that how the past projects could have enabled this transfer of knowledge. Another very important part is to create effective team. The team effectiveness means that the team have 2 or 3 very strong attributes, that they have good cohesion, they are highly motivated to deliver enthusiastically, and the outcomes are beyond your expectations, are at least at par with your expectations. So these are the 3 very important attributes of team effectiveness, that they should have a strong cohesion within themselves. They should be highly motivated to deliver, and they should always come to the expectations, and the goals and the outcomes must be achieved. So this is really very important, and for this we want to create a relationship. We want to develop a problem analysis and solving systems, and we would try to work with the team members time and again to develop their capacity. Most effective teams will have high commitment. They will have highly articulated goals, the clear roles and responsibility in chain of command and authority. The decision-making process are very clear. There is a learning system within the self-learning and learning from each other. Accountability is very strong within the team. Share leadership at different levels. They will try to collaborate, and they will always observe and respond to group norms. So they would always respect the group. Interpersonal communication is really very important skill, which normally works in the team effectiveness. The focus on the organizational change is really very important, because the world is becoming more complex. The challenges are highly dynamic and complex, and you cannot be static at one position. So you have to come to the changes which are happening around, and you have to come to the challenge. Now, this is very interesting, which was a study which was done by Deloitte Consulting, and there's a matter of fact studied about 500 Fortune organizations, and they wanted to study that what are the top 10 barriers which normally, if the leaders want to bring change. So the highest percentage, which is 82%, was coming from the resistance to change. And this is very common because the people and the human beings, by their nature, are not accustomed to adopt the changes. Even at your own home, it would become a challenge. So then sponsorship is not available for change, which is the second highest. Then unrealistic expectations set by the leaders, which are not achieved. And you have to progressively see that these expectations have to be really very carefully and realistically worked out. Then you have the poor management, project management, then case for change not compelling, that you don't have the conviction and the people are not having the strong convictions to bring the change. And then we have the uncertainty, we have the lack of skills with the team leaders, the project team. There is no change management program properly there. And then, so at the top of everything, we see that there is a resistance from the team members to bring any change, against any change. And this is really the most important and the most challenging part of the team leadership. Yes, I will. This is one of the very interesting Urdu prose of Urdu poetry of Allama Iqbal, the Hakim al-Ummat, and the great philosopher of the 20th century and the thinker and philosopher for Pakistan, and not only for Pakistan, for the whole world. So in Bangedara, there is a very good articulated poem of Allama Iqbal, and I remember it from when I was in 12th grade in the book of Gul-e-Naghma. So I will haqiqat in the reality of beauty. खुदा ने हुस्न से खुदा से हुस्न ने एक रोज ये सवाल किया. The beauty asked the Allah one day, जहां में क्यों ना मुझे तूने लाजवाल किया. Why didn't you make me inconvincible, immortal? बिला जवाब की तस्वीर खाना है दुनिया, शबे दराज अदम का फसाना. So the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to the poet, answered that this world is like a photography shop. Everybody you see is like you, and everybody has having the same end like you, and you have the same end like them. And even the longest shabe daraz adam ka fasana hai dunya, even the longest life, in the longest night, in the longest life also has an end. Even the people who have the longest life also have an end. हुई है रंग तगय्युर से जब नमूद उसकी, वही हंसी है हकीकत जवाल है जिसकी. So the world and the human being has been emanated from variability and from change. And in this world, the best one is who is mortal. I mean, who is changing. कहीं करीब तय गुफ्तगू कबर ने सुनी, फलक पे आम हुई अख्तर सहर ने सुनी. So this conversation between the beauty and the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was heard by the moon, and the moon spread this to the entire skies, and the skies then communicated it to the morning star, and the morning star then conveyed it to the dewdrops, and the dew then conveyed sahar ne tare se sunkar sunai shabnam. फलक की बात थी बता दी ज़मी के महरम को. So in this way, the discussion and the point reach to the dew drops of the morning, and from the dew drops, this important message was conveyed to the mahram of the Zami, means human being, which is the Khalifa of Allah, the Caliph of Allah, the Vicegerent of Allah. So this was communicated to the human being, or when the flower came to know. Barai phool ke aansu payam shabnam se kali ka nanna sadil हुआ है वो गया गम से. So when the flower heard that, the tears came into her eye, or his eye, and with this shock, the bud of the flower opened. So it has given a tashbih or similarity between the opening of the buds with the breaking of the heart of birds by the Hazrat Allama. And he, declared that with this kind of very, tragic news by the dewdrops to the flower and to the birds. The heart of the bird broke suddenly, and चमन से रोता हुआ मौसम बहार गया, शबाब शेर को आया तस्सुर हुआ. So the spring, the season of spring, went from the gardens while weeping, with weeping eyes or tears in their eyes, and the beauty and the youth came, which came to the garden to celebrate, also went with dooms and went with very high sadness. Now, the Iqbal, who is a mentor, I consider him a spiritual leader for myself also. And I read the Iqbal poems very regularly, both in Persian and Urdu. The Iqbal, in this particular stanza poem, has given the message that the beauty lies in the mortality of things. So if the things are not mortal, if they are not changing, if they are not adapting to the challenges and changing, then definitely they would not be more beautiful. And that is what the message of the today lecture was, that you have to adopt, you have to change. The challenges would come, the pandemics would come, the economic crisis would come, the health would deteriorate, the money would be lost, the organization would go down, but you have to change yourself to the challenges. You have to adopt the strategies in which you can be a winning person. And tomorrow, when you go to the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the grave, you should have a very good record of your deeds, which you present before the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I pray, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with the protection, with the peace, and with the only protection from the COVID-19 and all this kind of pandemics. And I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has being the omnipotent, has the sunnah, وَإِذَا يَقُولَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ, that when Allah is pleased and Allah orders, it is done. So we believe as a Muslim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, inshallah, very soon give the order to the COVID and to the virus, coronavirus, novel coronavirus, and it will be vanished very soon. Inshallah, the humanity, the people of Pakistan, the people of GB will be once again coming to the normal life, and we will be in the university, and we will be talking to each other, we will be talking to the student, and inshallah, this whole process of testing and this whole process of the lockdown would bring a new life for us, the new dimensions, the new opportunities, and the new challenges. And we will try to adapt to these challenges to the change management. In the next lecture, I would like to discuss the challenges which we can have in the after COVID-19 once we are back to the normal life. There are a lot of articles I'm reading these days about this, the future world, and certainly out of this, a lot of depression, lot of distress, we have a big number of opportunities also. So till that time, viewers, I'm really grateful. It's really wonderful when I talk to you, and I really appreciate, and I would keep continuing to listen to your feedback about the lectures. Thank you very much. Stay blessed and peaceful.